But the question was about barrels on rocket mass heaters and the longevity of metal in that location, like a radiator type location. And so any of you guys that have experience with rocket mass heaters for yourselves in your own homes, feel free to chime in here. It's one of the it's not a mystery. It's one of the like sort of compelling. It's such an interesting thing about rocket mass heaters is that, you know, metal is doomed. Any metal in the combustion core won't last. That's true, with the exception of our new wonderful RA330. But then we just go ahead and stick a barrel over the top of it and call it good. And, you know, we have a lot of people who come to rocket mass heaters for their first time, especially J-tubes with barrels, and they see that and they say, what gives? You guys just told me we can't use metal. It's going to eat metal, and now you've got a barrel. Should I, you know, which one do I trust? And so it's a really common question. How long do the barrels last? You know, is there any danger? Things like that. So anyone who has had a rocket mass heater in their home for any amount of time knows that it's not very long after having that rocket mass heater where you were like, dang, that barrel gets hot. Is that really gonna be okay? Because it'll get just cherry red hot and you'll be wondering about how long it's gonna last. As it turns out, once you've had it in there for a couple years, you know that it gets cherry hot, cherry red all the time, and it's fine. And it's totally holding up fine. So the answer is that I have not yet seen a barrel deteriorate on a rocket mass heater to the point where you can't use it anymore due to the nature of the rocket mass heater. I've seen them left outside and start to rust and get thin. Excuse me for a second, you guys. My little Waylon, will you please stop? Stop chewing on that, okay? He's just chewing on his blanket and making noises. Go outside, bud. Go do something else. You know, a barrel just on a rocket mass heater indoors, in my experience, that barrel is at no risk of deteriorating to the point where you can't use it anymore just through the nature of using that rocket mass heater. So why is that? Like, how can the core be so hot that it's melting metal, you know, in a short matter of time, and yet the barrel can last indefinitely? And I think the answer, and this is mostly speculation, but it seems to hold true. There's been a lot of conversation, so it's not just my speculation. It's sort of, I think, the general consensus speculation. But the answer seems to be twofold. One is that the metal of the barrel is only exposed to the heat of the flames on one side, and the other side is exposed to your relatively cool room, and there's a high difference of temperature between the inside of the barrel and the outside of the barrel. So even though that barrel top is getting blasted by 700 or 800 degree flames, that metal on the other side is rapidly cooling. And so the metal itself is probably not really ever getting, well, it's certainly not exceeding that temperature of what's coming out of the riser, and it's probably always far cooler, to be honest. And I think that, you know, at 700 or 800 degrees or whatever's coming out of the riser, that metal is fine. It's not starting to go away, at least in my experience. Now, the second part of that is, I think, even more important, and that is that in order for metal to break down in a combustion environment, part of what's happening is a chemical reaction of the carbon in the metal bonding, or wait, I might be getting that wrong, but anyways, there's carbon bonds going on between the gases, the oxygen, or actually just all the gases. So I don't know enough about this, actually. I'm stumbling right now because I didn't do my research in chemistry, and so don't quote me on this. But the gist of it is that basically what the gases that we're sending out of the firebox have had quite a bit of those volatiles consumed, right? We consumed the volatiles from the fuel, and they mix with the oxygen in the air. So we have a low oxygen, high carbon, environment. And I could have that backwards, but at any rate, it's whatever the environment is that is coming out of the gases that come out of the riser or the rocket stove are not capable of stripping the material away from the steel. You're not able to make that molecular bond. So as Belgian Gold says, I'm still using the same barrel after 7 years of hard burning, and it is good as new. And that's been my experience too. And so, Rich, the answer to your question is that in my experience and in the experience of others, the barrels will last indefinitely in that location as a radiator. For those two reasons I listed, and perhaps others, and probably most importantly is just the plain temperature just doesn't get that hot. There's one little hot spot right above it, and it can dissipate out, and everything else is below the threshold of damaging it. And it just they don't wear out, they don't deteriorate. So the answer is go for it. Use them for as long as you want. In my experience, you won't develop pinholes or anything like that. You won't have any deterioration, and they'll come out sounding and being strong after years of use. So that's the barrels.